Welcome to the Optimal Bio podcast. At Optimal Bio, we don't just balance your hormones, we balance your whole body. Our conversations range from nutrition to medicine with an emphasis on wellness tips to support your health journey. If you like what you hear, find us on the web at optimalbio.com and follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for joining another episode of the Optimal Bio podcast. Today, Christian is joining us again, so thank you. And today we're talking all about postpartum, which I'm so excited to do a deep dive. I always talk about if there was one group of people that I could tell about Optimal Bio, there's so many, but postpartum is definitely high on the list because it's not talked about enough. So let's get started.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. And I was kind of getting my thoughts together and all of this. I feel like it's such a big responsibility because, like you said, it's not talked about. And so with looking at like social media and everything, I feel like a lot of the things like women that are postpartum end up seeing is like the good parts, right? Like these women that apparently have their whole life together. Somehow their baby is like perfect on a perfect schedule. It's
Sleeping 12 hours a night.
Yes, their hair is thriving. They feel fabulous. They're working out. They're like all of it, right? And I feel like with anything else, right, it can be discouraging because it can make women at this very vulnerable time feel inadequate or like there's something wrong with them because they don't have all of that happening in their life. Everything's not perfect. From how they feel to the day-to-day to the baby. And so I feel like it's really important to talk about it because it's not normal to have everything perfect at all. That is the exception to the rule, right? I feel like most of those women, not most, but some of them just post the good stuff, right? That's what happens in social media. You only see the highlights. You only see the good parts. You don't see the struggle and the work that's going on in the background and all the bad or difficult parts. So I'm glad we're talking about this.
Absolutely. And we can see where you want to start with, but even going back to pregnancy and just a quick overview of how hard it is on the body. And then, going into then what happens, soon after birth with hormones and then going into postpartum.
Absolutely. And so I think the journey starts even before you get pregnant, right? So taking into consideration, how was your body before you even got pregnant, right? Were you already struggling with your hormones? Were you already struggling with day-to-day, with fatigue, with all of these things? I think if we remember that, we can kind of brace ourselves, right? Be ready. Okay, this is what was already happening. So it's probably not going to be better, unfortunately, after you give birth, right? You might go either back to where you were or even worse at some times. And so just keeping that in mind, because so much is happening during pregnancy and it's like nothing else, right? You can't compare it to anything else. During pregnancy, most women will notice that like their hair starts to thrive. They have all this hair, it's shiny, their skin is great. But at the same time, you're growing a whole human, right? You have more blood flow because you're trying to, for the baby, it needs more blood flow. Your hormones, they're thriving. Your testosterone, your estrogen, progesterone are all through the roof. They're at their highest they have been your whole life. So you get all the highs from that, right? Like the good things that come from those hormones. Are there struggles through it? Absolutely. And there's a million changes. I remember when I was going through school, you go through pregnancy, like day to day and then week to week and months and everything that goes into the formation of a baby. And I was a little traumatized because like, how do we even have a head over our shoulders? how does like the majority of people, they're born with like arms and legs and fingers and eyes where they're supposed to, because there's so much happening, right? So it just blows my mind every time I think about it. It also kind of scared me because everything that could go wrong.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it is mind blowing if you think about, yeah, how we're formed and how our bodies are every day.
Exactly. It's quite impressive, to say the least. Um, and so your body, is changing not just internally but externally, everything, right? And then you give birth. Your hormones, so that testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone that were way through the roof, plummet after you deliver your placenta. So that is a super fast shift in hormones, right? That is the fastest shift in hormone that a woman will experience, even comparing it to menopause and like puberty. Like those, they are fast and drastic. However, it's not minutes or hours, right? Like it's so fast.
Yeah, I was reading the other day that within 48 hours of giving birth, your hormones drop by 1,000%, all while trying to heal and take care of an infant.
It's wild. Like mind blowing. It's amazing what women can do and what they go through. And I feel like also, back in the day, I think it was because I also hear people say, oh, well, women have been doing this all their life. Why is it such a big deal? Right? Things change, obviously, right? Um, Back in the day, most women stayed in their community, right? You had community to help you, you had family to help you. Uh, Homes were multi-family homes, right? You weren't by yourself. Whereas now, a lot of people move, right? You graduate high school, you go off to college, who knows where you'll end up with. And you don't necessarily have family or friends there, right, to help you through this. And so now these tasks that were kind of passed around and like other people helped, whether that was by helping you clean or make food or, feed the baby or all of those day-to-day things that we still have to do. Like they're all on that woman now. Especially if they're by themselves and they don't have family or friends around to help them, it all falls on them. And, depends on your partner too, right? Uh, and their availability. Unfortunately, it is not mandated for men to have paternity leave. And that doesn't just hurt the dad, right? It does because it hurts that bond, but it hurts the mom too because now it's all on her. If he has to keep going to work, he's not there to support her and support the baby. So it's very different environment in which most women have to give birth. So we can't compare them. Um, and yeah, so I think that's a big part of like what bugs me when people are like, oh, well, women have been giving birth for millions of years. You should be just fine.
And it's like also we can learn from the past and now talk about it and how can it be better going forward? Because I'm sure you'll talk about the, postpartum depression rates, anxiety, and the list goes on when so much of it can, even just knowing what your body's going through, I think can be so helpful. Like I've always said, I've always been worried about postpartum. I don't have any kids, but I'm like selfishly happy that I work at Optimal Bio just so that I know what's happening to my body. Not that it's going to make it better or healing, but I think sometimes just knowing can make your mind be much more at peace.
Yeah. And so to go over that, so tons of things are happening to your body, right? One, of course, you're healing from the birth. The birth isn't just like popping out a baby. Like organs are being moved, right? During pregnancy, your organs are shifting. They're moving out of the way to make room for the baby. Your hips are expanding. Like everything is moving literally in your body. So, one, recovering from that. If you have a C section, it's not a simple surgery. It's not like just like, let me just poke this little hole, the baby's going to come out and everything's fine. Like, you're cutting through tissue, you're cutting through muscle, you're moving organs around, you're moving things out of the way. Everything has to heal from the inside out, right? Like, organs getting back to where they belong, readjusting, that muscle healing, and all of these physical changes that are happening. And then, of course, we have the hormones. So, like I mentioned, we lose, like you said, right, 1,000% of hormone dysregulation there. And so, what happens is your estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone drop immediately after giving birth. So, why is that important? Obviously, estrogen helps with blood flow throughout the body. That's what helps with like circulation to our brain, our organs, all of that. And so, if we think of the symptoms of menopause, which is when we lose our estrogen, what happens, right? So, women can experience hot flashes, night sweats, um, don't even think about the vaginal area at this point, right? It's still trying to recover from the birth, but vaginal dryness, we can start to see hair loss. That's super common thing that we hear about, postpartum hair loss. Part of that is estrogen. It helps with like the collagen production and all of those things. The blood flow to the scalp, all of those kind of go into it. It helps with our mood, the day-to-day function of every organ. So that protection you had during pregnancy, bye bye. Now it's zero, right? Your testosterone, hundreds of functions as well, right? Testosterone, one of the big parts of testosterone is a protein synthesis, right? It helps us make proteins, including the neurotransmitters serotonin and dopamine. So we're already seeing a decrease in those guys, and that can add to that depression, anxiety, the drive kind of goes down a little bit. With the dopamine, unfortunately, the other thing that decreases dopamine is high prolactin. So, prolactin or prolactation is a hormone that's released by the pituitary gland, which is what helps with lactation. And so, if you're gonna, after baby, prolactin goes way up to help with that lactation. And unfortunately, like I said, it decreases dopamine as well. So that adds to that lack of motivation. Especially if oxytocin isn't there to kind of balance things off, which there's a lot of things that can throw off oxytocin, including thyroid, and we'll get a little more into that. But there's a lot of things that have to be just right for the woman to feel okay. But if anything is off, then we're not going to feel good, right? It's going to cause also the fatigue. We're going to see changes in muscle as well. They're going to be more sore. It's going to take longer to heal. Testosterone and estrogen are also part of what helps us with healing, especially for that muscle that was just cut open if you had a C-section, and all the muscles that have to readjust themselves after giving birth. It becomes a slower process, right? And then we have progesterone. So progesterone works on our GABA receptors, which is what helps with anxiety. So picture this. Your whole pregnancy, you had tons of progesterone. That, think of progesterone as like your natural Xanax. It helps with anxiety, helps us manage stressful situations and anxiety, helps us with good sleep. And all of a sudden, someone just took it completely away, cold turkey, no warning, nothing, just gone, right? And so it is pretty common to also see heightened anxiety, difficulty sleeping on your own. Don't even into the picture, right? That needs you, just on your own, right? So progesterone also helps with like our nervous system, helps balance estrogen, all of those things, but they all go away. And why is that? Because of that prolactin. It's suppressing FSH and LH, which are the hormones that go from the brain to the ovaries to tell them to ovulate and make estrogen during that time. Typically, they should be suppressed and you shouldn't be ovulating and all of those things. That's why most women that are lactating, they're not having their period because that is suppressed. Unfortunately, that FSH and LH is also what tells the ovaries to make estrogen and testosterone, right? Well, first testosterone, and then the testosterone turns into estrogen. And so we see all of those go down. And so a lot of the symptoms can be very similar to a woman in menopause. So now you're having symptoms of menopause, but you have a baby.
Beautiful.
Needless to say, you're not going to feel great, right? And then let's talk about sleep or lack thereof. So, one, in general, in order for you to make testosterone, it's primarily made when you're sleeping. You need to be in that deep sleep. That's also when you're healing. And we'll get a little bit to the brain, what's happening for the brain at that time. But if you're not sleeping, you're not making it. So you're going to have that mood changes, depression, anxiety. You're going to have the low libido, which it's fine, right?
Least of anyone's worries should be.
The worries, but that is part of what drives that, right? So, um, and then, of course, just like not feeling well, and again, decreasing healing and all of that. The other thing that happens when we're sleeping is cortisol. So, cortisol is our stress hormone, which after having a baby, it's already going to be all over the place, right? So, cortisol gets a bad rep. We need it. It should be highest in the morning. That's part of what helps us wake up and gives us that little boost of energy when we first wake up, or should have. And then slowly goes down throughout the day and should be lowest at night. During that low time, that's great. That's when you make testosterone and they balance each other off and the cycle starts all over again. However, if you're not sleeping and you're not making testosterone and you're stressed because you just had a baby, the baby's keeping you up, and that's part of how it rolls. We can't do that. Got to feed the baby. But that cortisol starts to go up. And what does that mean for our body? So cortisol increases our heart rate, increases our blood pressure, slows down our metabolism. It also increases our blood sugar and insulin levels, which then will start to cause more inflammation in the body. It can cause, unfortunately, for a lot of women, weight is a big problem, right? And I think they start to already think about weight loss when the baby comes out, which is, it's not good, right? That's something we have done as a society, expectations that we have put on women when they should be focused on healing and eating nutritional things to help them with healing. They're focused on weight loss, which it's not the time, right? Like, we should let our body heal and feed the baby. The baby needs nutrition, needs all the things. So
Exactly. And then when your body heals, that's when you can lose weight, and it's like, yeah.
exactly, and well, the blood sugar starts to go up and cortisol starts to go up and insulin, and that's going to put a damper on that metabolism too, right? Which is really frustrating because it slows everything down. So we have all of that. And so sleep, it's hard, right? Because you have to feed the baby. But trying to sleep at other times when you can, if you have family or friends that can watch the baby, making sure that you're resting and sleeping when the baby sleeps, right? Which it's ideal, but it's not feasible for everyone. And so I think that's a place where, as a community, we do a disservice for our women. Postpartum, we're just not giving them the care and the support that they need after having a baby, which makes it really hard, right? Like, women aren't going to feel good if they're not sleeping. That brain fog goes up, right? When you're sleeping is also when your brain is literally being cleaned. There's a fluid that goes around there that kind of picks up the trash and cleans the brain out when we're sleeping, which is weird to think about, but it happens. We need it. But if you're not sleeping, that's not happening. And what does that do? That help makes us feel brain fog. We can't focus, more irritability, more depression, more anxiety. And so, unfortunately, you have all of those things kind of against you.
I think too, you had touched on it before. So many women already have hormonal issues, and then we get pregnant, and then we have postpartum. And it's so fascinating to me that postpartum care for a mom is you have a 6 week appointment. And it's like, okay, you're good. And it's like, what does it mean I'm good? Or you'll feel better within a year. And it's like, better to what standard? Better than 6 weeks postpartum? Yes, I would hope so. But if we're already having hormonal issues and then you add postpartum, where are our hormones actually going back to for you to feel better? And the majority of women get on an anti-anxiety or an antidepressant at their 6 week postpartum appointment. That's where that usually starts. And it's so many times it's because of hormonal things and then everything compounding, but they don't know that, right? And they kind of feel like they're drowning.
Yeah, and it is really unfortunate. I think the recommendations are supposed to be like to be seen within 3 weeks postpartum and then a follow-up after that. Does anyone do it? Mostly no. Most women don't get that, right? I think it's the ACOG recommendations. But they're not followed, right? Whether that's because of the provider just doesn't have it on their schedule to be able to see these women. There's not enough providers that can see all these women, or the patient can't afford it, right? Like that is part of it, unfortunately, especially for some of our marginalized communities. You just can't go, right? Or you don't have the support to go, right? You have the baby, you may or may not have the ability to drive, right? If they want to see you within 2 to 3 weeks, can you drive yet? Like you might not be able to if you had a C-section or had any issues, right? You might not be able to drive yet. How do you get there? Do you have the money to get an Uber? Are you even close enough to where you were seen? I have some family that lives in West Virginia, and it's a long drive,
Yeah.
1 hour minimum. And for specialists, it's going to be hours before you can see them. And so it's hard and it's frustrating because we can catch so many things if we saw the women earlier, right? For example, with lactation, right? If they're having difficulty breastfeeding the baby, well, why, right? Are we looking into that? And that kind of takes me back to the thyroid. So one, if you already had thyroid issues before even having a baby, your risk of having hypothyroid is going to go up after the baby, right? They already go up. You can have something called postpartum thyroiditis, which is just inflammation of the thyroid after giving birth. And it's a pretty significant amount of women, I believe read it was like 30% of women can experience that. And again, they typically say, oh, it'll go away on its own. You're fine. There are some providers that will treat you. And part of this is the reason we do this is to give you information, right? To empower you to have those conversations with providers and say, no, I need you to treat me. I want to feel better. And it would help, right? So back to the thyroid though. If you there's an enzyme in your body called TPO or thyroid peroxidase. That is a normal enzyme that helps with thyroid synthesis, so the production of thyroid hormone. And so, if you have TPO or thyroid peroxidase antibodies, that means that your body is making cells basically that are attacking TPO and you need it to make thyroid hormone. But a lot of women will already have elevated TPO that points to something called Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease uh, that over time will cause hypothyroid. And unfortunately, a lot of women aren't treated. They'll know they have Hashimoto's, but there's no investigation as to why or is there anything that they can change. And even having elevated TPO can put you at high risk for one, difficulty getting pregnant and having hypothyroid during pregnancy, which is not good because hypothyroid can cause developmental delays in the baby all of these issues that we don't want. So we really need your thyroid to be optimal during pregnancy, specifically your T3. So for your thyroid, there's different parts. You have the TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone, which is made in the brain. Basically, think of that. That is looking to see how much thyroid hormone your brain senses it has. If you're not making enough thyroid hormone, TSH goes up, trying to stimulate your thyroid, which is right here, to make more thyroid hormone. If the TSH senses enough thyroid hormone, it typically goes down because it doesn't have to stimulate the thyroid as much. And then you have two types of thyroid hormone, T4 and T3. T4, I like to think of it as neutral in your car. It doesn't do anything unless there's a stimulus. Every cell, every organ in your body is different, and they have different needs. So each organ and cell is responsible to turn T4, or neutral, into T3, which is the gasoline. That's what drives every single cell in your body. Is involved with mitochondria, which is the energy house of the cells. It's involved in DNA synthesis, which is how cells replicate, all of these things, right? So we need it for every cell in our body. And so that T3 is the active form. That's what helps everything move along the way it's supposed to. Unfortunately, most women don't have that checked. I think in conventional medicine, we typically check your TSH, maybe T4 if the TSH is abnormal, depending on the provider and where you go. Which is unfortunate because a decrease in T3 is associated with more pregnancy losses, and also can cause developmental issues with the baby, and after you give birth can put you at higher risk for developing thyroiditis, that inflammation of the thyroid, right? And so if you have an underactive thyroid, what does that show up as, right? Fatigue, which you're already fatigued because you're not sleeping, and that's just going to add to that. So it can make women feel very inadequate because they might see someone else, oh, well, they're managing, but I feel like I can't put one foot in front of the other, right? And that might be your thyroid. The other big one is that it can cause a decrease in milk production. So if you're having difficulty with like the letdown and like milk production, might not be anything you're doing. It just might be your thyroid. But then what does that do to you mentally, right? Like,
Exactly.
something I did. What's wrong with me? I can't make milk. And it's like, no, it's your thyroid all along. Um, Thyroid will also make it so you're going to have more hair loss, which is already an issue. So now we're adding to that. It's going to cause dry skin. It's going to cause a slower metabolism, which is already an issue. And then part of that can even just be like looking at your iron. So that TPO molecule, which makes thyroid hormones, depends on iron. They have like a bidirectional relationship. You need iron to make TPO to be able to produce thyroid hormone. You have to have enough thyroid hormone for you to absorb iron from the foods you're eating. But after pregnancy, you might be anemic, right? Depending on your pregnancy. How much blood loss did you have? All of those things, right? You're losing a lot of blood, one. In some women, it's more than others. And so you might already be anemic. And so what happens if you're anemic? How do you feel? You're fatigued. You're going to have hair loss. You're going to have a slower metabolism. Now it's going to add to the thyroid now making thyroid hormone, which adds to all of those symptoms. T3 is very important. It has been associated with your mood. So patients who have low T3 or an underactive thyroid have more depression and more anxiety. And they don't respond as well to treatment if their thyroid is not functioning. So we just keep like adding to things, right? And then we don't check any of that until 6 weeks after. And by that time, a lot of women are already like even lower, right? Now, maybe you had issues breastfeeding and you just gave up because it wasn't happening and you're blaming yourself. So now that adds to the depression. Your hair is falling off like nothing, which adds to the depression. Your T3 is probably low, which adds to the depression. Your metabolism is in the dumps. So now you're seeing all these people on social media that they're like, oh, I'm back to my pre baby weight, which is
That's a whole nother topic. Yeah. Yeah.
with all of that, you might be not eating well because now you're depressed, right? So you're not getting all the protein and the fiber and the carbohydrates that you need because you do need them. The baby needs them. Like all of these things that just will kind of snowball, right? If you're not getting enough protein, that's going to slow down your metabolism too, right? If you're not getting enough fiber, again, it slows down your metabolism, your gut motility. You're going to have more constipation, which is not good after having a baby. Um, if you're not eating healthy fats, that's where your hormones come from. Your hormones come from cholesterol. You need fats in your body, right? Your breast milk needs fat. That is what is feeding your baby, right? You need the carbohydrates. As a matter of fact, even when you're still like ovulating and during pregnancy, to make progesterone, it comes from carbohydrates. So, but we end up just kind of depriving our whole body because of all this going on all at the same time. It can become very hard to get out of.
Absolutely. And then I feel like you're trying to control something. So then it may go to the food because that's something you can control and you think it's going to help you. But we're looking at different things. I was reading the other day and it was like the whole low carb movement. And people were like, oh, I felt better and lost weight. And it's like, yeah, because you stopped eating sugar, like candy every day. And it's like, yeah, it's like full real carbs. Like you said, our bodies need it in so many ways, but especially through pregnancy and postpartum and hormones in general.
Like I love sweet potatoes, right? Like that is a fantastic carbohydrate that has so many nutrients in it. It's like don't demonize, food groups. We need them. It's just really all the added stuff that we put on them, the processes that the food goes through, right? Like if something can sit in a plastic bag for years and not break down, like that's a little scary.
Yep. Why does it? What is it doing in your body?
Exactly, right? And again, that's another crazy hole we can go down. But yeah, I think it's hard for women, and we do see women, postpartum, which is great. We have women that see us before they even get pregnant, and they end up pregnant after seeing us, and they know how good they felt before. So we see them after pregnancy, and obviously, when that is, it kind of depends on you, and but we do see a lot of women after pregnancy, and it helps, right? Because we manage thyroid as well. So we can tell, like, hey, this is where your thyroid's at now. So for our patients, I will say we manage thyroid before pregnancy. During pregnancy, it should be managed by your GYN. And that's actually because during pregnancy, your thyroid needs to be a little bit on the higher end. You need thyroid hormone. And so um, for us, we do typically keep you at this. The way we treat patients is we keep them at the same levels that are expected during pregnancy. So your T3 should be a little bit on the higher end of normal during pregnancy. That's where we like to keep people as well in their day-to-day life because it makes sense. That's where most people feel good at. But during pregnancy, there's a lot going on, so it really should be managed by your GYN. They should manage your whole system. Like that's what they're there for. After pregnancy, we'll be glad to see you and get you, stabilized and get you back to where you need to go as far as the thyroid, but also your sex hormones, right? Where's your testosterone at? Where's that progesterone at? Like, what are we doing? Uh, how old are you when you have that pregnancy, right? It's much different if you're having a baby in your 20s than when women are having their baby at their 40s. You're getting closer to that perimenopause age, right? And so treatment might look a little different. What your hormones do, how they rebound is going to be different depending on your age, but also, like I said before, what they were doing before you even got pregnant, right? Um, so there's definitely a lot, um, and I just wish we talked about it more, and that we had more overall treatment for women, right? Especially after giving birth, because that is huge. Um, I know there's other countries in which women are followed like immediately after by whether that's a doula or a midwife or doctors, right, for different things from breastfeeding, especially if you're a first time mom. Yeah, right. And even if you're not, every pregnancy is different.
Exactly.
Whether the baby can latch, all those things, everything's a little different. So, but there is a little bit more support when it comes to that. There's even like mandated things that have to be provided for the women and their partner, like after giving birth, from a medical sense and from just resting. There's a lot of countries out there that really focus on like rest and recovery. That is all you're doing. Um, I'm Mexican, and one of our things we call it cuarentena, which stands for 40, basically, and it's a 40-day period after giving birth that you do nothing. You stay at home, like you shouldn't go outside and be exposed to like cold winds. It's a little folk and like, but it's good, right? Like it's there to help you. uh, the family is involved and giving you foods, making sure that you have food available. It's very much centered on like helping you with cleaning. Like your job during that time is to rest. um, and we take that focus away a lot. So I think it's important that as a community, as people, we focus back on that, right? Allowing that woman to rest and recover, um, and reach out to people if they're having issues, right? And not made felt like it's their fault or they're doing something wrong because they're they don't feel that bond with their baby. There's a lot that goes into the bond with the baby.
Absolutely.
Your thyroid can actually, if it's not working properly, will decrease oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. But if you're hypothyroid, that goes down, makes it harder to bond with the baby, right? So it also going to increase our depression. Milk is going to be a challenge as well. So it's a whole slew of things happening that for some women it all goes great, fantastic. But for I think a lot it doesn't. There's a lot that goes into it.
And I think too, a lot of times when it does go well, they have put in a lot of work on the back end from either research or their previous experience. So it's helpful to kind of see what other people do and know that too, because, and this gets a whole other conversation, but like prepping for birth, like everyone talks about like prepping for pregnancy, but actually like prepping for birth and then postpartum, it's a whole nother conversation. I follow someone and it's pretty incredible what she has two kids now, but how she prepped for birth the first time, what she learned in the second time, and just being super open about that, I think can be so helpful. And you're talking about like your culture, and I feel like little by little here, different people are starting different companies or communities for postpartum to go to. I just hope the conversation gets bigger, and just like education, like we talk about all the time, just women knowing how our bodies work, right? From puberty on, it can be so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, that prep is big. Um, and is everything going to go 100%? No, never does, right?
Never. No.
But it can be helpful. My niece, she had her baby. She has two pretty close to each other. Um, I think it's like 2 or 3 months. Their birthdays are like a few weeks. So, but she did a lot of that, right? Like she makes a lot of like the snacks for the baby, for her toddler. And so she had a bunch of those frozen already. She made like some of like the easy stuff that she can make, and freezing it so that way it was just like a warming up, right? Um, Granted, she does have like my sister and brother-in-law and like people around to help, but she also put a lot of work into it to try to make it as easy as possible. And I do admire that she does a lot with like social media, and she posts the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
From mornings where she wakes up and she's like, I don't know how we're gonna do it. We didn't sleep at all. Like it's rough. These were my plans. I'm not doing any of that today. Like, so it's nice to see that being talked about, because yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I admire every single woman out there.
It makes me tired thinking about.
Absolutely. I'm like,
But all my friends that have had kids, like, I'm like, give me the exact details from birth on. Like, I want to know, like just because it's like, oh, a beautiful baby's born. It's like 100%, but it's like, let's talk about the mom. Like, what does happen to the mom? And I think too, something that's so important is movement. And so many women in pregnancy are told to like not move or bring their workouts down. And it's like, what do you think childbirth is about to be? That is one of the most intense things I think a body can go through.
yeah, I think listening to your own body, right? Because it will tell you what's good, what's not, what feels good, what doesn't. And I've known friends that, like, when she was a bodybuilder and she continued to work out throughout her pregnancy, not the same, obviously, but she continued to move, and, and that helped her a lot. Also with mind, right? Like,
Yes.
if you'd rely on like exercise and movement to keep you from feeling depressed and anxious and clearing your mind, we take it away. Oh my gosh, you're going to feel awful, right? So making sure that you continue to move, you continue to do the things for yourself that feel good during, before, and after pregnancy. Um, Even if that means, a 5-minute walk around the block with the baby, right, on the stroller or whatever. Anything to keep you moving and getting that natural sunlight, fresh air, all of those things can make a big difference, from our circadian rhythm to just being outside.
Nature's so healing.
Yeah, getting out of the walls can make a huge difference. And I think the other part is having the partners also know this information, right? Um, Whether that's having them listen to the podcast with you. And that goes up to everything, right? Whether that's about perimenopause or menopause, like, your partner needs to know what's happening in your body. It's not in your head. It's not just you. It's not abnormal. It's perfectly normal. It's a lot going on in the body, and you need their support. And so I think for men, sometimes they don't understand, because they don't go through that.
Exactly.
Their testosterone slowly drops throughout the years. It's not like a bam, right? They don't get this. And so I think just listening to that, and then listening to what's happening in your body, right? Like, they don't understand. They think just the baby is formed and like it's a pocket. They don't understand that your organs are being shifted around inside of you, that things are like spreading, muscles are like being ripped apart. Like,
Your teeth are changing. Like all your tissues are changing. Yes.
everything is changing. And so they don't understand that. And I think it's important to let them know, right? Like, have them listen, have them read the books. And that way they know that, and hopefully are more understanding, especially postpartum. Because, like I said before, right, for women, we're not thinking about sex after having a baby. That is the last thing in the brain, right? For men, they're like, oh, baby's out.
Right.
When can we do this, right? When did the doctor say you were ready? It's like, it doesn't matter what the doctor said. It's about my body. and everything that I went through and healing. And hey, if you want this to happen, help me heal. What does healing look like? Help me with the baby so I can take a nap. Help me with making food. Help me with cleaning so I'm not like having to do these like stretches on my abdomen that's trying to heal, right? Like help around. If you want me to heal faster, do your part.
One of my best friends, they went to pre-baby counseling. And because she was like, it's the norm to go to pre-marriage counseling, but one can argue having a baby is more life-changing, right? And I'm like, that is genius. Because you talk about like small things to big things, just even like, I need my 1 hour in the morning to go for a walk or whatever it may be. But I was like, that is so, so smart, right?
I love that. Yes, I think we need more of that. More.
Absolutely. What are, some takeaways that whether someone's 8 weeks postpartum, 2 years postpartum, that, can help day to day, like talk about walking outside or supplements, but some things that can help you feel better and feel like yourself.
One, talk to people, right? Let your providers know. I think you have to tell them what's happening. You can't just say, I'm okay, right? You can't try to take it all on you, right? You have to accept help. Um, if there's people that want to help you, accept it, which can be really hard. I get that. But you can't do this on your own. You shouldn't do this on your own, I think is the best, right? So accepting help and asking for help. Don't pretend you're Superwoman. It's okay. We all need help. So I think those are like the big ones. But things that we can do even before you get pregnant, having a good quality multivitamin or prenatal vitamin, right? Because we need the B vitamins. So we need a methylate, like B complex. We need all the B vitamins, not just B12. I think it gets a lot of focus, or not just, especially not folic acid. So we need folate. That's the active form of like what we call folic acid, which is important for the nervous system of the baby and preventing certain neurological disorders. But we need folate. Your body can actually absorb it and use it. And
And most prenatals and vitamins have folic acid, so something to look at. Yes.
you have to find the right brand, right? Unfortunately, I don't know how else to name, but the right brand, yeah, that has those good quality nutrients in it because you don't want a bunch of synthetic vitamins. It's hard for your body to absorb it. And so finding a good quality multivitamin or prenatal vitamin that gives you all of that. In that multivitamin, we're also looking for selenium. Selenium is incredibly important for the thyroid. It helps turn T4 into T3. It helps with the oxidative stress that happens during that conversion from T4 to T3. The 3 and the 4 on that T3 and T4 is how many iodine molecules are attached to it. So iodine is another important one that I feel gets no mention out there, but it's huge. It's really important for the baby's brain. And there's been shown that women that have low iodine levels, their baby's IQ does drop, and pretty significant. So we want to make sure that you're getting iodine. Most women are told to avoid seafood. That's where we get iodine from. So definitely making sure it's in your prenatal or multivitamin to help with that function. You can't make thyroid hormone without iodine. So make sure that you're getting it. And then also a good EPA, DHA, omega-3. So that's your fish oil. Like I mentioned, one, hormones are made out of cholesterol. So we need a good omega-3 in there. That's what helps with baby function, the brain, like all of that, milk. So a good fish oil is very important. Keeping your gut regular, right? That's another thing that we see a lot. We see a lot of constipation in pregnancy too, especially that first trimester. Constipation can be a huge issue, and so we want to make sure your gut's good, right? That affects everything. Most of your serotonin is made in your gut. Serotonin is in charge of our mood, right? That's what helps us from depression and anxiety. So we want to make sure our gut is working properly and that we're getting all the nutrients in there. So sometimes a probiotic might be good for you, just to keep everything working the way they're supposed to. Trying to make sure that you're eating all the things, right, from healthy fats. So you want that omega 3s, trying to avoid like the vegetable and seed oils when possible. I know they're everywhere, but as much as possible, trying to avoid them, trying to focus more on like extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. Those are great sources of omega 3s. Making sure you're getting plenty of protein. Protein helps with muscle protein synthesis as well, and muscle health and metabolism and all of those things. And so you have to get enough. And that goes up during pregnancy. We need more, right? So making sure you're getting that, which can be difficult, but it can be done. So getting those, getting plenty of fiber to keep everything moving. The liver, it helps with clearing out, excess cholesterol in the liver. So that's great for that. And with the absorption, really with the absorption of like cholesterol we don't want or don't need, it helps get rid of it through bowel movements. We need healthy carbohydrates. So starches are great. Everything has to be there, obviously in moderation. Like, see what feels good for your body, right? And it's not the time to be on diets. The word diet should never be associated with, at least not in the way we think about it, right? With pregnancy or postpartum, that is not the time to be doing any fad diet. It really has to be what's going to be nourishing for your body to go through everything it has to go through, deliver a baby, feed this baby, and help you with healing through everything you went through. So I think those are like the main.
And I think people don't realize how healing and nourishing food can be.
Absolutely. Yeah. It can make you feel great. It can make you feel awful.
Exactly. Like food's medicine. It's either going to hurt you or help you. So it's creating your DNA, it's helping you heal. It's your brain. Like if I don't eat enough protein, I feel it. Like, and it's really making that conscious effort.
And everyone's different, right? Where some people, well, they'll eat, I don't know, maybe some steak with rice and broccoli, and they feel great. You give that same dish to someone else, they're going to feel awful because they feel bloated from the rice, and the broccoli gave them gas, right? And it caused them to be bloated as well. So it's really listening to your body and doing what's right for it. Maybe instead of doing that, you need the steak with, potatoes and, I don't know, Brussels sprouts. I don't know, right? That feels better for your body, but you still need all of them. It's just going to be which ones are best for you. Going with that, and then we're here to help, of course, right? After you give birth, or before you get pregnant, and looking into all of that, we are here to help with hormone balance. If you're postpartum and you feel like, I'm having all these symptoms, no one is helping me, we're here to help. We'll look at all of your hormones, including your thyroid, and we can give you recommendations from nutritional, stuff to just fixing your hormones to wherever they need to be to help you be the best you, right? Because if mom is not healthy and mom is not doing good, it's going to affect everyone else in the family, including the baby. So we want to make sure that you're good so everyone else can be good too.
Absolutely. No, exactly. And what you said a few times is like reminding the mom, they know themselves better than anyone else, how they feel, what their body needs, if something's off. So just really leaning into that and trusting themselves
Yeah. And don't forget to ask for help.
and walk outside and get some sunshine.
Absolutely. That sunshine, it's amazing.
It's magical.
It is what nature does for us. Just sitting outside for 15, 20 minutes. We're doing your walk outside. There's a big difference in walking on a treadmill inside and walking outside for the same amount of time. Huge difference in the effects on the body. So positive way. So
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thank you. I hope this is helpful for so many people. It was definitely, such great education. So I appreciate your time.
It was my pleasure, and I hope if we can at least help one person, did my job.
Absolutely. And we see that. So you help so many people.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
This has been a production of Optimal Bio. Optimal Bio is CEO Tyler Brandon, Medical Director Greg Brandon, podcast host Tyler Brandon. The podcast can be found on our website, optimalbio.com, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Our theme song is Sunwave by Paradiso, provided by Epidemic Sound.